Hey there. Thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris and welcome to part 3 of a 4-part series taking a look at the many different pieces of concept artwork, minifigure designs, set prototypes, and TV show concept art that we got for the LEGO Legends of Chima line, which was one of LEGO's original Big Bang themes all the way back in 2013 to 2015. Chima is actually kind of underrated and performed well enough to last all 3 of its planned years. Now, over the course of the series, we have seen a lot of really fascinating stuff, and today it's time to take a look at some of the most exciting concept art for the LEGO sets themselves and the set prototypes that we're about to see on screen. And so without further ado, let's jump right into things. LEGO Legends of Chima had a lot of development effort put into it, and thanks to the transparency of the LEGO team, we actually have some of the most pieces of concept art we've ever gotten for any original LEGO theme yet. It's clear that a lot of effort and work went into nailing the design of the world and the figures, and over the past 2 videos in the series, we've taken a look from the very first initial concept sketch for Chima and going all the way through all sorts of different variations of what the theme would eventually become. From humans who donned animal masks and gain the powers of the animals, to the villains consisting of all bugs, or all bats, or all scorpions, and even cancelled tribes like swamp creatures, rams, bulls, and even so much more. There were a ton of amazing things that we got a chance to look at over the course of the series. But of course, if you do want to check those out, check out the other 2 videos in this series, and now it's time to take a look at what a lot of people have been excited to see, which are the prototype sets and the concept artwork for the TV show itself. This is after most of the general look and feel for the sets had been already decided, and it was time for them to actually start to put together sets and try to decide on the look and feel for the builds themselves. But for the most part, we just get basic iterations of the sets we eventually got in radically different color schemes and featuring different styles. So this concept model image comes from Tommy Anderson himself, who, if you're a Ninjago or Nexo Knights fan, you may know as the creator of those themes plus Legends of Chima. He spearheaded the creation of many of LEGO's original themes and revealed the set actually just last year, December of 2021, and explained that this was a concept model for an unused idea, where nature itself would come to life and fight back because of all the conflict in the land. It's an interesting direction Chima could have taken, but I understand why they didn't eventually go with this for these sets, especially because it would feel like it would take away from the actual animal conflict focus. This feels more like something that belongs out of, I don't know, Lord of the Rings with the Ents or something like that, or some sort of other nature-related LEGO theme. Still, it is an interesting build to get. It is primarily a large ball-jointed action figure type character, which is quite interesting to see actually being made as an official large-scale LEGO set, and I kind of wish we did get something like it in the actual Legend of Chima line, although I guess we did get a couple of mechs, so they are somewhat similar. Still, it's an interesting concept and a very interesting LEGO build as well. I just like the integration of a lot of those CCBS and construction elements like the blades and the mace elements, because I think those are always cool when paired together with system parts. Moving on from that, though, we have a couple of different concepts for the Krager's command ship, which they just simply called the Croc ship, in development, and here you can see the most interesting thing about the vessel itself is that the minifigures are the older versions of the crocodiles with fully molded heads and no minifig heads underneath. We spent a lot of time last video kind of analyzing all these figures, so I won't spend too much time on it now, but it's kind of interesting seeing how the basic design of the ship really kind of stayed the same for most of its development. Here you can see a almost completed design right here, just with radically different figures, and we even have a different version of it on the website pane, which was from an actual leaked commercial that was accidentally showcased by a toy retailer. But you can see these 2 versions of the ship are basically the same thing, just one of them had the transparent red eyes and the other one just had the trans black. Now, alongside the boat, we are supposed to get these larger versions of the Lion watercraft. Unfortunately, we never actually got these for the official set. Would have been nice to get the Keyed Orange larger boat piece, but instead we just got a very small Lion speeder, and the larger Lion boat concept really wasn't used again outside of the Croc Swamp hideout, which still wasn't quite as big as this. So this is a look at a model that never came to be. What's also quite interesting is that during a toy fair, LEGO revealed that the original color scheme for the Eagles, or at least the Eagle jets, was supposed to be more of a traditional Eagle-like color, where you can see the cockpit is still just the white and yellow, but the main body is made up of different shades of reddish brown and dark brown, and the same for the feathers. I think personally it would have been really cool to actually get those pieces in those colors, and while the jets absolutely make sense to be a bluer color because it is of course the color of the Eagles, I still think it would would have been really interesting to get an actual realistic colored eagle jet like this one, because it really does stand out from the rest of the animals. It also seems like they were contemplating making a raven version of the jet, which you can see alongside the eagle jet here. Probably they basically were building off of the same template, and maybe at some point they were considering maybe having a battle set between them or two different sets, and then they just decided to make the one eagle jet and the raven jet that we did get. Well, we actually got two, but we got one much larger one and one smaller one. So I'm glad they actually tried to do something a little bit different. Here is that brown eagle jet from a different angle, and yeah, it's a really striking and interesting color scheme. But those are really the only mainline set prototype images we have. We do have a couple of Speedor's prototypes here, where not a ton changed. You can see the basic function of the boulder smash has been retained, but of course the whole log falling one is not a set that we actually got for Chima, probably because it would have been too frustrating to have to keep putting back those logs and keep having to rebuild it, but it's an interesting concept to get, and you can see that the original design for one of the Croc Speedors actually had the Construction CCBS fists on the side of it, which is actually a pretty funny design that we never really got for Chima itself. Moving onwards, we have yet another image of that Speedor's just with some of the detailing on it, and it's funny because the print on the Speedor's itself is very, very similar to what we would eventually get for the final sets, although the Speedor's itself seems to be made up of a completely different material with a black wheel. Moving on from that, though, we actually have quite a few different concepts for the buildable figures. Now, thanks to a couple other designs, we know that the original design for the buildable figure, at least for Laval the Lion, was supposed to use the large Hero Factory 3.0 Beast Claw elements as the feet there as paws, and man, that is a detail that I really wish the set still retained. I think it adds a lot of character to the build to actually have the feet being built differently, and it's kind of a shame they actually just decided not to do that in favor of just the standard Hero Factory foot piece. Of course, this was all before Hero Factory 2014 when we actually had a beast foot element, so this was the best they could do. Otherwise though, besides the head being very odd and uncanny, this is pretty much very close to the final set we got. And on the next pane, you can actually see an even closer image to the final set here, where it really is just the head sculpt that had a lot of changes, and the sword itself just getting the transparent blue color instead of a dual blue and gold one, but pretty much the rest of the model is the same. The same can pretty much also be said for Krager, because here you can see the model is almost identical to the one we eventually got, right down to the mold nearly being finalized. You can tell it's a prototype because the printing isn't quite the same, it's not quite there yet, but these two images really show that they really had the design for Krager pretty much nailed early on. Here's one more image of the early Laval prototype. Kind of interesting how strange the head is molded here. I am much happier with the one we eventually got, and they even went as far as creating promotional images for both of these builds, which you can see right here on their demo of the Chima website. But what's also very interesting to me is that we actually saw a sneak peek of some of the other Ultra builds on the Chima website demo image, and these are very, very radically different than what we got. As you can see here, Razor the Raven had a much larger wing blade element. I can't quite tell if that's the Ninjago large blade element from 2012 or not, but he actually had a dark red color scheme, which is quite interesting because the minifigure himself does have some dark red highlights, but predominantly the character is a black feathered raven, so I guess it makes sense that they decided to recolor it to all black. But it is fascinating seeing a completely different design for the Chi Razor concept there, and man, do I wish that Chi Gorzan had an ammo belt of bananas. That is a really funny concept design for a large buildable character, and it's such a shame we didn't get that. Sure, it would have upped the parts count, but man, that would have been a really funny design. And ultimately, I think that this build for the Ultra Build Gorilla is a lot better than the one we eventually got, which did end up feeling a little bit bare bones due to the parts budget and pieces that went into the set. Here you can see it actually was fully bulked up with CCBS components up on the top shoulders as well, and I really, again, do wish we actually got him with a shield as well as with that banana ammo belt. But finally, moving onwards, we just have a couple more concept artwork for some of the final Year 3 sets. These are actually the concept artwork used for their interpretation in the TV show itself, where they specifically were trying to demonstrate how these sets would look like animated, so they actually got the final or close to final set images and were just trying to animate it. Nothing too fancy to see here, but you can see the different concept designs for the fired up Krager's flying vehicle here, which had space to pick up the Lion tank, and of course we have have the Ice Bears as well with a couple different designs. What seems to be a big missed opportunity here is that for the Ice Bear mech, they actually originally had a transformation feature with the wheels on the side, which of course was a feature given to the Bladvik Bear mech, but it would have been cool to actually see both of the mechs featuring that. That being said, it's kind of interesting how they used basically the same exact template for the Bladvik or regular bear mech versus the Ice Bears, just with different texturing and armor pieces overall. And here is a fully colored image showcasing a very similar look to what it would appear like in the show. Finally, we have the Tormak set here, which was the rotation, kind of the transformation vehicle where you could transform him from Tormak to Panthar. So an interesting build here, but you can see that this is very similar to what it appeared like in the final showcase, and it's really interesting because they actually tried to integrate a lot of features from the original LEGO set into this build. But with that, we have honestly summed up all of the images that we even have online for the set prototypes. Not a ton to look at here, but enough that makes it still pretty interesting to actually base an entire video off of just the set prototypes. And be sure to stay tuned for next time because there's still so much more. We still have to deal with all of the concept artwork from the TV show, so stay tuned for that. Alright, and with that, we have summed up part 3 out of this 4-part series summarizing all of the different LEGO Legends of Chima concept artworks and prototypes. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of these set prototypes. Didn't really see that many, to be honest. We only have a few images of just a few, but those are enough to be pretty interesting, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this series and what you think about the set concepts themselves. With that, we've about summed up this video, so thank you all so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks, and bye-bye for now.